Hi, welcome to the Finding Harmony podcast. I'm your host, Harmony, and I'm joined today by Russell Case.
So good. I understand that you have one of the stars from The Only Way is Essex is on the show today. That's fantastic. I'm so excited. It's one of my favorite shows.
Yeah?
Where I learned the term vajazzled, which came up in last week's episode, which is cool.
We're here.
And I think we're going to learn how to vajazzle or bejazzle our JJ?
No.
What are we doing today?
We're going to talk to Ben Eckett about his organizations, Gloves Not Guns.
Oh, that'd be better, probably.
Yeah, and Urban Yogis UK.
Oh, yeah.
We're over in England again.
I did it at Urban Yogis West Coast once. That's good.
You did?
I did, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
You don't remember when I did that whole thing with Eddie and the Urban Yogis, and we got all those guys and flew them out to San Francisco, and they worked with the kids.
Well, let's talk about that.
That'd be nice.
Okay.
Yeah.
How are you doing, Ben?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. Great intro.
Thanks.
Sadly, I'm not from Essex. Yeah, so I'm sorry, I can't help there.
Oh, where are you from?
So I'm originally from Devon in the southwest of England.
Oh, that's very different.
Yeah.
And where are you now?
So I'm in London now. So yeah, I moved to London about, I don't know, like 15, 16 years ago.
Oh, cool.
That sounds like an East End Essex accent. I mean, did you pick that up? Were you born with that?
So my dad's side of the family are from London. I never really had like a Devon accent.
No.
My brothers and sisters do actually, but yeah, I never had it. And now I've been in London so long, it's my accent's changed a little bit.
Yeah, you sound like a tough guy. My goodness. Devon has a whole different flavor. I used to go down to Devon to see what's his name, John Scott in Penzance, and he's obviously not from Devon. He's from what's that island near Australia? New Zealand. And so he's kind of sweet, sort of faux Scottish kind of accent.
Faux Scottish.
Not at all. Like a hard nuts from Essex. You didn't do time in Essex, did you?
No, I didn't. No.
You never did any hard time? Oh, that's a shame. I wanted to talk with you because my dad did federal time for drug charges, and so I like to meet other young men who have that in their back pocket.
Different podcasts, different guests.
Well, I have an intro. This is going to be fun. Ben Eckett is the co-founder and director of Gloves Not Guns, CIC, which uses sport and education to divert young people from crime and exploitation, which I could have used as a young man, especially the exploitation part. The organization offers community sports, mentoring, schools, workshops, counseling, and an alternative education provision. In 2019, Ben became director and yoga teacher at Urban Yogis. You have a PhD in social pedagogy. I mean, this is really your life's work, isn't it?
I don't have a PhD in social pedagogy. No, I did a degree.
I'm sorry.
That
just came out. That just came out the wrong way.
Extra years.
I should have just been like, yes, I have. No. I couldn't stand education, and I did my degree when I was 29. Went back to do my degree, so I finished it. Yeah, it took 4 years. And I actually enjoyed it, but yeah, no, education definitely wasn't for me.
Well, it sounds like working with the youth is something that was of interest to you. How did that manifest for you? How did that start to percolate?
Yeah, so when I left school, I didn't really know what I was going to do, and I got So I used to play football, and I got scouted to join Exeter City, which is like a professional football club, but a very small professional football club in England, which they're sort of like League Two now. and I basically did like a youth team thing where I sort of trained and played for their youth team, and then went to college at the same time. And I did that for 2 years, and I came out of it, and I was sort of quite unsure what I was going to do. And I ended up doing a bit of football coaching on a local estate down in Devon, in an area where there was, quite a bit of deprivation and not many opportunities for young people. And I
If
just
you
I just
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 interrupt,
loved it.
an estate in North America would be sort of like a housing project.
Yeah.
That's what he means by
Okay.
estate. Yeah, to us, an estate is like a mansion.
Oh right, yeah,
So
not
that's very
quite.
different.
Yeah, so basically, I just loved it. I loved working with young people, and the people that were sort of running the program offered me like an opportunity to train as a youth worker. At the time, I didn't really have any qualifications, so it was like an entry level thing. Um, and then yeah, so I trained as a youth worker for 3 years, and then at the time when I was doing that, a couple years into it, I decided I wanted to set my own project up. So
Hmm.
with a mate of mine back in Devon, we set up a project called Y Surf, and it was all to do with teaching young people like from sort of backgrounds where they didn't have enough money to like access surfing and things like that. We'd teach them to surf for free.
Yeah.
Um, and it was crazy. Like I know you were talking about Devon earlier. Like it's an interesting place because environmentally, like when people look at it, it's beautiful. Like, and if you face value, you think it's like perfect, but there's quite a lot of unemployment. There's a lot of
Mhm.
problems with drugs down there. Yeah, and just like there's a lot of people, with not much money. So we were working like in areas like 10 miles away from the sea, and some of the families had never been to the beach before. So it was
Oh,
it
yeah.
was it was mad. Um, so yeah, so I ran that project for a few years. It did really well. We got sort of invited to the Houses of Commons to talk about the
Wow.
project and how we'd sort of been able to support young people into learning to surf. And then it was just around the time when like a lot of government cuts came in, and the
Mhm.
funding for that project stopped. Um, and then at that point, I decided then the project had finished. I'd finished my sort of youth work training, and I decided that I'd move to London. And sort of yeah, then from there, my sort of career in youth work and like education, social care just sort of changed a bit. So I started working in schools at first, but schools where they're called pupil referral units, and it's for where like young people that are in mainstream school have been kicked out of school, and they
Right.
go to these like specialist schools. So I worked there for quite a period of time, and then I sort of got into working within councils and doing sort of more within social care and youth offending, like working with more like whole family support.
Mm.
Um, and then I ended up moving into working more into like gangs work. So I was working with young people that were, entrenched in gangs and county lines and criminal exploitation, and yeah, did that all over London. And then 5 years ago, I sort of worked within that in youth work and education, social care for about 15 years, and then I met Adam, who's
Hmm.
the co-founder of Gloves Not Guns and Urban Yogis,
What's his
and
last name?
Adam Ballard.
Mhm.
Yeah, and then we sort of built Gloves Not Guns from there, really.
Cool.
I wonder if you could tell us a bit about the mission and like the vision for Gloves Not Guns. You sent me a vision statement. I wonder if you could. Well, if you'd allow me to read it. We aim to prevent and divert young people from crime, antisocial behavior, exclusion from education and care through building positive relationships, education, community cohesion, and using the power of sport to change lives. And I think by care you mean being taken care of by the government, which is
Yeah,
sort
exactly.
of a
Yeah.
bit different. We would say that a bit differently. I wonder if you could tell us a bit or maybe expand on that vision statement for us.
Yeah, sure. So me and Adam both have sort of individually been impacted through sport. In one way or another, it sort of had a positive impact on our lives, and I think that's where sort of the passion came for us to set up this project. Adam had been running Croydon Boxing Club for quite a long period of time.
Yeah.
We'd sort of had this idea to set up Gloves Not Guns and started it. And then I met Adam by chance and sort of told him what my background was. And at that point, we decided we would develop it together. The idea for what we wanted to do is we knew from experience of work and living in the community and whatever that you needed like a wraparound service to support young people. It couldn't just be like one angle. You couldn't just go in and, we couldn't just get kids off the street and teach them boxing and think that was going to change their lives.
Right.
It would to some extent,
Yeah.
but there needed to be, mentoring for them. There needed to be support around their education and employment. There needed to be some sort of therapeutic intervention because of a lot of them had experienced a lot of trauma. Um, there needed to be like support for the families because for us, if you don't change the home environment, it's very hard to change that situation for a young person. You can give them all the tools you can, but if they keep going back to that home and it's the same thing, repeating itself, like you're not breaking that cycle. So the aim of what we've put in our mission statement is really around just creating that wraparound care for the community and the young people to try and make like long-term systemic change for them. And many of the young people we work with, they have social workers involved in their life. They have youth offending workers. They're maybe not in education. So a lot of the barriers in their life is like education, is family, and we, if we can prevent a young person from getting excluded from education, we know it's going to have a much better impact on preventing them from being exploited in the community. Because if a young person gets excluded from school, they've got more time on their hands. They're not safeguarded as well. They're out in the community, and there's so much like grooming going on, and it's quite easy for them to get exploited into gangs. So the idea is to try and keep them in the home environment, unless they need to be removed because of, neglect and other issues. Keep them in school and then get them engaged in all our sort of support services that we have.
Well, I think about my own family and the difference between being working class and say, being aspiring was that instead of that knee-jerk response to a young person saying you're kind of too stupid to do that, and there's a knee-jerk response to violence and a knee-jerk response to kind of marginalizing a person and destroying their confidence, like that's kind of, to me, part and parcel of growing up working class. But being an aspiring middle class person is more about, when you see a young person and encouraging them and really kind of doing everything you can to kind of build up their confidence. So what you said just now really kind of struck true. Like the very hardest thing about working in underserved communities is rebuilding confidence, and that intervention at home is the mountain to climb for an organization like yours. So I wonder how much work do you have to do to get into people's homes to kind of help them interact with each other in a more positive way?
Yeah, great question. I think a lot of the time it's making sure that the people that are delivering the intervention are relatable to the families. So, for instance, the majority of our staff team are from the communities they work in. We've got, I think it's around 40% of our staff team and are now people that have come through the project, so that were maybe referred in as a young person 5 years ago, and we've supported them to change their lives around. They've then gone through sort of a volunteer and training process, and then they're becoming staff.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when they then go into that family environment to do some support, I think, it's the families feel much more at ease knowing that it's someone that they can relate to.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's a really important aspect of it. I think then there's also the side of it, making sure that our staff team are trained and have done lots of training around, trauma informed practice and, restorative approaches, all these different things that we know. Then there's a bit of, theory behind the practice, and that we're using tools that have been used by, therapists and social workers for years, that we know sort of are going to make an impact. And then it's just like anything, just being compassionate and showing empathy, and going into the home and not being judgmental. Like, you don't know what it's like to walk in someone else's shoes. So, and it's a very intrusive thing when someone comes into your home to like tell you that that essentially you're not like doing something right in relation to your parenting.
Mm-hmm.
So you've just got to be so sensitive, so reflective, and show all those other qualities that I just mentioned. And I think that's why we have success with, a lot of our families that we work with, because, those things I've just mentioned are really important to the way we work.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
We were hiring in San Francisco. I think right away we knew like the hardest thing is that the people that really wanted to work for us were all white girls,
Yeah.
and they were really well-meaning and earnest, and they really loved yoga, really wanted to bring yoga to kids. It's like, okay, we're going to go into a Title I environment that's underserved, that's in this instance was 90% Latino and 10% Tongan Samoan and 1% African American, and a couple of principals' kids that were little white kids. Uh, Going into that environment, like the hardest thing was like, well, how are you going to gain their trust? What about you? You could be well-meaning as you want, but how are you going to gain their trust? And so I was trying to find other Latina women, and I was trying to find women of color to hire, because I knew that was going to be the crucible. One of the best things that we ever did was bring in some of the urban yogis from New York who were working with Eddie. We brought them into the school to kind of hang out in the class, and that was fantastic. It gave such legitimacy to our crew when we had people of color coming in to help us out, because we were, it was a struggle.
Mm.
I'm not sure that maybe I didn't actually ask a question there.
No, but yeah, I get definitely, and the thing is as well, it comes back to what I just said a minute ago as well. It's like, if you're a compassionate person that, has empathy and has has made sure that you've educated yourself about the communities you're working with, I don't think it matters, what color you are and what your background is, like,
Mm-hmm.
because we've got teachers from all types of backgrounds that work with all types of people, and they have an amazing impact. And I think it's about just a positive relationship for that young person, which maybe they've not had an experience of a positive
Mm.
relationship.
Yeah.
There's definitely something though as well about what you've just said around, relatability, and the students seeing themselves in the teacher, which is
Mm-hmm.
huge. Like, and that's why we've put a big emphasis on making sure that our staff are relatable and come from the communities they work in, and
Mm-hmm.
making sure that we're, trying to make yoga more accessible to Black and ethnic minority communities, because it certainly isn't in London. Like, you go to most yoga classes and it's mainly full of white women.
Yeah.
Um,
Of a
and
particular class.
And it's quite expensive,
yeah, and
no?
like I can't afford to bloody go to the class. They're like 15 to 20 quid a class, like
Yeah.
£100 a membership. It's Yeah,
Yeah,
it
that money
pisses
could
me
go to
off.
your
I can't
kids.
stand it. But it's like, yeah. So, and it is getting a little bit better, definitely. But
Yeah.
there's still a lot of work to be done in that, and that's one thing we're really passionate about is making sure. And like we're in the process of creating a teacher training that will hopefully launch the end of the year. We've got Helen McCabe, I think you know, and a guy called Rohill
Yes.
involved in developing it. And our teacher training will be specific to working in youth and communities, and it will go out to the general community, but the profit, general public, sorry, but the profit it makes will fund people that can't afford to do it to be able to do it, and it will fund young people that we work with that would like to become teachers to do it. So yeah, we're really like trying to make an effort to sort of change how sort of yoga looks in
Awesome.
the areas we work.
I'm curious, what gave you such a heart for this work? What was there something in your background or when you grew up that sort of draws you to working with youth at risk?
When I first started, there wasn't like I was quite like carefree. I didn't really think too much about things. I just did something and I enjoyed it. But later on down the line, as I got older, I realised I experienced quite a lot of trauma growing up, and I think as I got older, I realised that was the fuel behind what I wanted to do. I think when I was younger, like in school, certainly after I'd been through these different traumatic events, the consequence was I was getting out in trouble at school, getting excluded.
Yeah.
I got getting arrested and involved in drugs and things like that, and I didn't feel supported at the time. I didn't really feel supported at home and didn't feel supported, in the at school and places like that. So I think it made me realise that there wasn't enough out there for young people.
Mhm.
And yeah, and then just like as I did the work more, like I just like young people just enrich like that. I'm not like obviously hopefully have a positive impact on their life, but they also have a positive impact on my life, and it's that mutual thing. So
Mhm.
all the people that work in our projects, like everybody enriches each other's lives, and it's been one of those things. Like it's just like anything now. The more we do it, and the more we build the both gloves not guns and urban yogis, the more it just becomes like this thing that I'm just more driven to like make huge and support more young people and get more people involved. Um, but no, answering your question, it's definitely my own experiences. As I got older, I realised that was what sort of drove me to really be passionate about it.
I was going through your IG, and there's a wonderful photo that you put up of Grandpa Eckett, and you had this quote there. Where I don't remember the quote off the top of my head, but it was something about I'm gonna start. I started doing yoga again, and pretty much I'm hoping I can get my head up my own arse again.
Yeah.
Something like that, or maybe it's kicking my arse. I don't remember, but it was I wonder if you could tell us more about him, because there's this wonderful photo of him and he looks real smart, and he looks like maybe he's a diplomat, and he's studying yoga in Oman. And so I'm trying to figure out how you went from your grandpa Eckett, who looks posh, to growing up in a kind of a trauma informed childhood.
Yeah, so first my granddad he worked for the UN within aviation. He very, very funny character. As you saw in that post, that was quite sort of censored for what he sort of would say. So he's quite a character. And definitely you would not think he did yoga if you ever met him. But yeah, basically he was working away, and I think when he was in Oman, like one of his colleagues like introduced him to yoga, and then he bought Richard Hittelman's
Yeah, yeah,
like a 28-day yoga thing,
that's right. Yeah.
and he basically just did it all his life. Like he just did it every day, and then he
This is
had
quite a long time ago, though, right?
yeah. I mean, he did it for like 40 years, I think. And he just stuck to that one book as well, which is so funny. Like he never went to classes or anything like that. He just had this one book, and anyway, so like he sort of he'd done yoga for this period of time, and then he had quite a lot of health issues which were lung related. So he had COPD. I think he caught TB when he was working away once. He had pneumonia. So his lungs were pretty like messed up. And he always swore by it that yoga, if he hadn't have done yoga, he'd be dead. So like he was, and he lived to 86. But yeah, no, he was brilliant, real character. And yeah, definitely probably one of the reasons as well I ended up doing yoga. Like there was a few reasons why, but he was definitely one of them. And what was quite nice as well is before he died last year, about 3 or 4 months before he started doing yoga again, because he hadn't done it for a while, and he sort of said that I'd send him like pictures every now and then of me doing yoga, or like I'd send him like there was a few articles that came out about the project, and he said it sort of inspired him to start again, which was nice. Yeah. And on the morning that he died, actually, he went downstairs and had his breakfast, went upstairs and did his yoga, and then went to sleep, and that was it. But
wow.
So yeah, but no,
that's the way to go, man.
But yeah, no, like so he came from quite a working class background, to be honest, and I think like he just got him, worked hard and got himself the job and a good job. And
yeah, it's just a good looking suit.
Yeah,
but he really fit the part.
Quite good looking guy as well.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I was like, that's yeah,
but
smart.
Yeah, but no, he's great. I can't remember what the other part of your question was.
Well, I don't if he's not a diplomat, and even though he looks smart, you guys look like twinsies, to be honest. Good looking young man. But if he's working class, and then what was it his? It has to be his son who's your father.
Yeah. So my dad is his son. My dad was an artist. He's a builder now. No, he's yeah, exactly. But yeah, I didn't actually sort of know who my dad. Like, I didn't meet my real dad until I was like 12. Or no, it was about 10 or 11. Yeah. So so my dad, and then my mum, she's a dental nurse and sort of lives in the southwest of England. And then my stepdad, who I sort of grew up thinking was my dad, he's down in the southwest of England as well. He's a fisherman.
Yeah. Okay.
Tough. But yeah, there was quite. And I won't go into like loads of detail about stuff, just because it's my family might listen to this and things like that.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of like stuff that happened when I was younger that wasn't particularly great, and obviously had its effects on me. But it's one of those things, isn't it? Like your sort of past sort of helps you shape who you are and what you do. And I probably maybe wouldn't have ended up doing what I do now if I hadn't have been through all that shit. But
yeah,
it's all
good. Amazing.
Yeah. I kind of started to realize as a young man that all of my interactions were inhibited by the trauma. And the more I did yoga, the more I realized that it's like this was going to help me actually have conversations. And in a way that I wasn't going to be hamstrung by shame and self-doubt and paranoia that I was being disrespected in some way, which is still, a constant struggle, just like, arguing with Harmony over the dog. It's like, is my self-esteem being disrespected in some way? I have to kind of like chew on it. Like, how can I get out of this conversation without hurting people? And it's a kind of, that pattern's always there, but now we have these tools where we can like take a breath, try and figure out who's actually doing the talking inside our heads, and like, well, what are they really trying to say to me? And what's really important here is, love between me and other people. And so I just it's fantastic that you're able to do this work and to come out of it and to start kind of reckoning with yourself, and then understand and be passionate about doing that for as many other kids as you can, which is, I think, where I was when I was doing work with urban yogis in California. I was like, this is some way to spread this knowledge, this I remember thinking about it as like, this is, for me growing up underserved in Louisiana and being broke as toast. I don't know if that's an expression. I've just made that up. But like having,
dry as toast.
But like having access to yoga was really fucking privileged.
Yeah, definitely.
Though I would never have described myself as being privileged, but somehow I was able to.
It was on public television.
Fucking privilege.
Was
what
it?
a privilege that was, that it was on public access, So, but I really wanted to make that opportunity available to other kids.
What drew you into the practice of yoga? So was it after you started Gloves Not Guns?
Yeah, so no, it was before, actually. It was about a year before. So I've been doing yoga for about 6 years. So there was a few things. There was obviously my granddad, but there was, at the time, I was working in West London and I was doing sort of gangs intervention work. And I just remember I was like stressed and just, like like burnout, basically. I just felt, I felt knackered. And I was leaving work one evening and I walked past a hot yoga studio and it said like it had, I don't know, 30 quid for like all you can do yoga for a month. And I was like,
there you go.
I was like, boom, I'm going to try it. And I went in and yeah, I did it. And just like the first session, I was just like, wow, like it was obviously, it was really tough. Like it was like some sort of like power yoga or something. But I just remember like lying in Shavasana at the end and I was just felt so relaxed. And then when I left the studio, it was quite like a cold, London evening. And I just felt so good. And then I kept going. I probably went like every day for that 30 days. And then I just started going to loads of like, I've kept finding studios that had the £30 offer. And
Perfect.
I just kept using that up until it was, until I couldn't find any more yoga studios.
Then you got to find all the karma yoga classes.
Yeah. And then I just started doing all the online stuff. So I started like, doing like the sort of, the like Patrick Beach and all those types of people and just, and I just really enjoyed it. I loved it. And so that was one of the reasons. It was like a sort of to help my mental health a little bit. And then the other thing, like in a more sort of, like I was at the gym once and my wife's dad's best friend was there and he's like a 60-year-old guy. And I did a bit of training with him and then I stretched with him at the end. And he's stretched and done yoga all his life. And he was getting into like these crazy positions. And I was as stiff as anything, couldn't do anything. And he was like, you need to start stretching more and doing this. And so, yeah, so it was more of like an embarrassment thing, that as well. I was just like, it was like shame. I was like, shit, I need to like, start. Because, I don't know what, like I played sport most of my life and with sport, I'd always just like stretch my quads out, do a couple of hamstring stretches and then just get straight into it. There was never like anything that would really sort of work on, lengthening the muscles and things like that. So so there was a few things, but ultimately, like once I started, I was just like, I loved it. And and then I think I was at Gloves Not Guns and I just started introducing it sort of informally into the sessions sometimes and I just saw the benefit of it. And then also like on the other side of my own practice, like I just started seeing the benefit it was having like my mental health and just generally just how I felt. And I went and did I did a teacher training, a really shitty 200-hour teacher training with something like, it was called like Bend It Like Buddha or something terrible.
That's so like English
honestly,
wordplay.
yeah. So I did that because I wanted to basically teach it to young people.
Yeah.
And then on that training, I did actually meet an amazing teacher called Mattia, who Italian guy who sort of lives between Italy and Mysore.
Nice.
Just like the most amazing teacher. Anyway, he introduced me to Ashtanga, and then that was it. I was addicted, and I came home and I was like, I was obsessed with it. And my wife said, "You've become a twat," or something like that.
When I was married to an Essex girl, I had to forbade her from using the word twat around my mom. I said, you can't say twat around. She would call everything a twat. Anyway, anytime anyone was in the least bit, had the least self-regard, like, oh, what a twat.
Yeah. I think I was a bit of an idiot. I came home from it. I was obviously, really like, it obviously had a massive impact on me doing the Ashtanga practice. And there was something much deeper with that compared to what I'd done so far. But I was like, waking up, turning on the heating at 6 in the morning, practicing. If the kids came in, I would be really upset, and I was just like, it was so. And then after like a month, I'd loosened up a bit, and she's like, and I realised like I can't, I'm a dad. I've got all these other priorities. I can't just, have every 2 hours every morning doing yoga.
Right.
Yeah,
we all wish we could have 2 hours every morning doing yoga.
It was 7 hours. 7. We got to 7.
4 was good.
7 was good. Yeah, because you get to sit in, you could do your pranayama and your chanting, and it's like 7. All your pre-stretches, and the 2.5 hours of actually doing the fucking thing. Yeah, it's 7. Did you grow up doing like boxing, like putting the gloves on? Were you doing martial arts at all?
Not really. I've always like messed around with a bit of boxing. So I'd when I lived back home in Devon, I used to go to a boxing club and do a little bit of training, and I'd do a bit of sparring, and that was it. And again, when I was in London, the same, sort of went down to Adam's boxing club. But no, I enjoyed it, but it was something I never really got hooked on it. Like I say, I enjoyed the training of it, but no. And then I started jiu-jitsu about 3 years ago, and then now I'm hooked on my, and that I love it.
We should introduce you to our friend Michael Baidu. He's in New York. He's a good friend.
I chat to him every now and then, actually.
Oh, you do?
Yeah,
oh,
on
good.
Instagram. Yeah, he's so funny, that guy.
Yeah, he's a good egg.
But yeah,
the yoga jiu-jitsu combo.
He's a jiu-jitsu master. Yeah, I think. I don't. Yeah. And so you're are you doing that now? I don't know. You have a blue belt now. I saw you pretty excited about it. What form is that?
Yeah, so I got my blue belt in September. So basically it's the next belt after white. So I was a white belt for about 2 years. And then I competed at the British Open last September, and I won it, like in my sort of weight category. Cool. And then my coach then gave me my blue belt. So so it goes white, blue, purple, brown, black. And I think
that's jiu-jitsu.
Brazilian jiu-jitsu.
Okay.
So it's sort of like grappling and then submitting each other.
Yeah. I like making harmony submit to me.
And grappling, is that what you're calling it now?
Grappling, yeah, do a fair bit of grappling, yeah. That's sort of a preamble. Yeah, it's the grappling.
Oh God.
I've got a feeling harmony wins that one.
Exactly.
I don't know. I feel like she lets me win, to be honest.
So how did you meet Scott Johnson?
So how did I meet Scott? So basically when I was had my little like addiction to Ashtanga phase,
Yeah, I
I
like that.
I didn't really like going to yoga classes. I just liked
Mhm.
practicing by myself. I was never
Okay.
really, and
How did you know what to practice though?
so I learned from the guy when I went and did my teacher training, and then
Mhm.
I've got like this little old like piece of paper that Iyengar
With
had
the
with
stick.
all the postures for
Yeah.
the primary series, and then I bought that what's that brilliant book? I can't remember. It's so like it's really good for primary and intermediate, and I just used that.
David Swenson's
That's
practice
the one.
manual?
Yeah, that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
The little stick figures are
I bet you
drawn.
it's John
They're
Scott's
drawn by
probably.
John Scott,
Okay.
who made those when he was down. Well, he was
Yeah.
probably in London when he made them, but he was the one that was teaching at Penzance. He
Okay.
was a
Yeah.
graphic designer before he went into yoga.
So so I basically where I'm living I'm still living in Croydon, and I met a guy called Andy Gill who was one of Scott's teachers at Still Point,
Uh-huh.
and I would go and see Andy once a month just for a one-to-one, just to check that I'm like practicing correctly, and he would sort of give me like alternative postures for the ones that I couldn't do and things like that.
Right.
Yeah, good.
And then he said to me to like, oh, come up to like the Mysore class up with Scott's. So I went up and and then went for a coffee with Scott after class and told him what I was doing. He sort of said about urban yogis. And funny enough, Eddie was already messaging me on Instagram because we'd set up a project called Box Flow Yoga at Gloves Not
Box
Guns.
flow yoga. Okay.
And
Okay.
the idea was because a lot of the young people that we work with would not want to do yoga if I said, let's do yoga.
But if
Right.
you do it on top of a box, so they were okay with that.
Exactly. That's what we
Oh
thought.
yeah, right. Okay.
But the idea was to mix a bit of boxing and yoga together, and
Yeah.
Oh,
hopefully
mixed.
sort of like
Yeah.
get, hook them into it. And I think Eddie had sort of seen what we were doing and said, it looked really good and blah, blah, blah. And and anyway, then I got chatting to Scott, and he obviously said about the Urban Yogis project.
Yeah.
And then further down the line, me and Adam decided we really wanted to sort of start to develop our yoga part of our organization.
Mhm.
And instead of developing it under Box Flow Yoga, we thought it would make sense to do it under Urban
Urban
Yogis.
yogis.
So
Yeah.
I met with Eddie when he was in London, and met with Scott and Helen McCabe. Had a really good meeting, and then February 2000 a couple of years ago. What was it? 2019?
Hmm.
No, 2000. Sorry, my maths isn't very good, as you can tell. Me and Adam took it over and sort of have developed it since then.
Wow.
So
Cool.
so I met Scott through that, and still sort of see Scott, and he's involved in the project up until a couple of months ago. So he was sort of doing some mentoring with young people and
Yeah.
delivering some classes and that. But yeah, he's sort of got to prioritize some other work at the moment and things like that. So he's sort of moved on from it. But we've still got Helen McCabe involved, which is brilliant. Helen was sort of the original sort of founder of the UK version with Scott.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
Beautiful.
I'd say that I really loved and treasured that work with urban yogis, and the 10 years that I spent in education were, incredibly impactful for me. Uh, it's still what strikes me, and I'm very interested to hear your perspective. That's It's always about funding, and you need funding to get that reach, and then you get reach and it inspires more funding, and then there's that issue, and then on the other side it's the burnout from the constant reach and trying to get more reach and overextending yourself. And I just wanted to know how you manage that. How do you manage? Because it's a good getting urban yogis, and maybe Deepak Chopra has been involved with you guys. But I just want to know, how are you surviving over there? Because that's always the question and the hardship of being a nonprofit and working with
Yeah.
kids.
Um, So my experiences of running my first organisation, YSurf, obviously taught me a lot, and I think I realised from being in a lot of meetings with charities and things like that funding was always a thing.
Yeah.
So me and Adam have taken a very different approach to how we run our organisations, and we take a very much like a business approach to it.
Mm-hmm.
We don't just rely on funding. We get a lot of private revenue in. So our services, go out to councils. So, for instance, Gloves Not Guns, we provide education and employment support to one South London borough. We do a lot of specialist gangs intervention and mentoring to other boroughs. So they pay for our services. And we've got that working really well. So, when we originally started the organisation, it was probably like 90% funding, 10% private revenue. We're probably like 50-50 now. And the private revenue is very like sustainable. It's a lot of long-term contracts.
Great.
And we're always monitoring and evaluating and showing the impact of our work and producing annual reports and things like that. And we've got, support with marketing and things like that. So we're constantly going out to boroughs and businesses to get them to, support us and invest in what we're doing. One thing in the last couple of years really been sort of working on how we work with corporates. So at the moment we're in talks with some pretty big like financial organizations and banks. We've got a 3-year partnership with Nike, which obviously gives us financial support and support with equipment, gives opportunities to young people.
The shoe company.
Yeah.
Nike. Oh,
Nike.
Okay.
Yeah.
I understood.
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, for going back to your question, I think it's just having lots of different approaches and routes to how money comes into the organization.
Mm-hmm.
And also like constantly adapting our models to fit with whatever the funding is at the time. A few years ago, most of the funding was related around knife crime because knife crime's still a huge problem, but it was a big
press.
sort of, it was in the press a lot. And then COVID happened and suddenly knife crime wasn't a problem, even though lots of young people were still getting, seriously hurt. But they wanted money towards COVID projects. So we obviously had to adapt on the way we went for funding and what we did at that time. So yeah, and I think like we've been quite successful with it. We, every year we sort of double the income of what we've brought in for the organizations. And
I think bringing in funding is like a lot of writing grants and knowing, like having sort of your finger on the pulse of what funds are available, what government funds are out there.
Yeah, exactly. But and then in regards to your other question around burnout,
because that person that writes all the grants is fucking burning out.
That's me and Adam most of the time. Yeah, I think it comes back to what I was saying like a while ago about making sure that as a team we're compassionate and supportive to each other, so that we have regular team meetings, we have supervision, we make sure that there's lots of sort of nice things that we do as a team together to look after each other. We all our practitioners have like gone through like trauma informed training and things like that, so we're really like aware of when like a staff member's maybe not feeling 100%, or any of us are not feeling great. So I think it's around culture. Like when you work in a council, like a London council, the council will just work you so hard. And if you look at the state of like social care in England, social workers are constantly changing jobs, constantly like on burnout because their caseloads are ridiculous. They're being worked too hard. the great thing about the way we're not, a statutory organisation, so we can make sure that we, aren't working our workers too hard. We're making sure we're constantly saying, look, I've got a young person I'd like to allocate you to support with mentoring. Can you do it? And
Yeah.
we've built trust with our staff. So if they can't, they say, no, Ben, I've got too much on at the moment. I can't do that. So, but it does happen still. Like when you're working with a young person and it's there's you've got an emotional attachment to them and something serious has happened to them or it's hard to avoid sometimes. But I think as an organisation we're doing well with it. We don't tend to get people burning out too much.
I had a couple of young women working in a school for me, and they weren't taking their breaks, they weren't taking their lunch breaks, they were working after school, and the principal was needed help and just kept piling on more and more work onto the young ladies. Pretty much how every school teacher, that's their existence, that's how they're living. And so I secured funding to get them a third partner, a third young lady to work with them to try and reduce the workload. And then it was just exactly the same. Then she was working 60 hours a week with the other two. It was like, this is sometimes, encouraging people to pull themselves back from the brink is also hard because they're pushing themselves to burn out as well.
And that's where good supervision, comes in handy. When you've got a line manager that is really reviewing your work that you're doing and checking in on your mental health and looking at sort of little indicators where like that person is starting to go down that slippery road to burning out. And I think that just comes with building a good culture within your organization and having supportive line management. And I suppose for me and Adam, because we don't have anyone that's managing us, that's where using your tools like yoga or boxing or jiu-jitsu or time with your family and things like that, it's just making that time, isn't it, to make sure you look after yourself. And I think that's where yoga's like really had a good impact on in my life is I know it's something that I can go and do, and it will make me feel a bit better in that moment, and maybe sort of relieve a little bit of stress.
Yeah.
I have a quote here that you put that I really liked. I wanted to know if you could talk about it. A yoga that doesn't hold social justice at its heart is not a complete or true yoga. I wonder if you could talk about maybe where that quote came from or what it means to you.
Yeah, so I'm currently doing my 500 hours teacher training with East London School of Yoga, Stuart Gilchrist, and part of my essay that I'm having to do at the moment is to do with, and I'm not even going to be able to pronounce this word properly because it's Sanskrit and I'm shit at Sanskrit, but it's like Satyagraha or something.
Satyagraha.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah.
And anyway, I was like sort of obviously looking into the philosophy and everything, and I found this quote on the Accessible Yoga podcast. It was like an article that guy had written, and it just like really resonated with me. For me, like yoga is something that is very accessible or should be very accessible. It's you don't need anything to do it, and it's it can have a massive positive impact on how you walk through life and how you treat others, and a lot of the philosophies behind it of Vahimsa and things like that are very very positive and can teach like young people and adults, everybody. A few politicians could do with learning about it.
Yeah.
About how to sort of treat people. And just like from my perspective, it was always like, I think it, you know, it can be used to really like help communities and people that, you know, don't like the word underprivileged, but you know what I mean, like, you know, don't have as,
we would always say underserved rather than
yeah,
underprivileged.
nice, yeah, that's perfect, yeah.
Yeah.
um
Just for the same reasons, like who wants to be underprivileged?
yeah,
You know.
yeah. Yeah, and I just like, when I look at yoga, like, I'm not, obviously I've not done it for like a really long time, and I'm not particularly like, um I'm not like ingrained in a yoga community. I'm a bit of an outsider, in lots of ways. I just find it, when I look at it and when I go to certain things, like even like my teacher training that I'm doing at the moment, it's very like, people are very selfish and self-obsessed and just not very, and this is obviously, I'm just talking about, I'm not like generically, I
Yeah,
know
yeah.
there's lots of amazing people that do yoga, but there's a real like shitty culture within it as well that I just don't like, and it's very elitist. You know, it's like,
Yeah.
you know, it's people, very privileged people, like all wearing very expensive clothing, you know, all eating very expensive vegan food after and things like that. And it just sort of like, yeah, it's just something that I really don't like. And I think when I use that quote, I sort of feel like we should be like using yoga to do more in society and help people,
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
if that makes sense.
Definitely. I think it highlights that yoga is a philosophy of action,
Mm,
and that, unless you're acting out the principles of ahimsa, not just, eating vegan food
yeah, yeah,
and like trying not to, I don't know, squish ants or something on the ground, but but like actually looking at all the harmful things that are happening in society, and not just the ways that like you personally are enacting harm, but the Yoga Sutras talk about, if you're passively observing harm and doing nothing, it's a type of harm that you're
mm,
also involved in. Not just if you're the one committing harm, or even if you're thinking about harm, it's also a type of harm. And so, ahimsa being so that foundational yama, or that foundational principle of yoga practice, of all the 8 limbs of yoga, whether it's asana or pranayama or dhyana, meditation, or whatever, they all have to have the ahimsa at the heart of it, that non-harming principle, which is about really like actively, proactively being peace in the world,
yeah,
creating peace, or, positive experiences for people and beings, rather than harmful ones. And I think that is the heart of the practice, and it's not about like navel gazing or becoming self-obsessed, which I think, to your point, often happens, right? and
yeah,
and it's easy to happen because it makes you feel good, the practice. And so, like you sort of experienced, right?
yeah,
you're
exactly.
you want to do it, and you want to do it in a certain way so that you can have a certain experience, but it can't always happen that way. And that's actually kind of not the point of it. The point of it isn't to give you that experience. The point of it is to like kind of train your mind and your body in a certain discipline so that you can then take that experience out into the world and help others.
No,
I don't
exactly.
know. That's sort of how I feel about it. If you're yelling at your kids because you don't have the time and space to do your yoga practice, it's not much of a yoga practice at that point.
Yeah, and it was like, I was on the course recently, and the teacher Stuart has asked everyone in the program to, he would like them to donate, to volunteer 20 hours of their time to like, to a community initiative and to help people, which I think is a brilliant suggestion.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just, some people just, they like present to the world that they live this like yogic life on their Instagram and, talk all these good things, but then they don't like live it truly. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think there's like obviously sort of different levels of awareness.
Yeah,
And sometimes I mean and sometimes, for those people too, maybe they really are maxed out like emotionally, mentally,
yeah,
that it's really hard to, if you're a mom and you're fitting in your yoga practice and you're, working and balancing family and doing all of that, and maybe you're doing a teacher training on the side, saying,
yeah,
okay,
yeah.
you need to
Of
volunteer
course.
20 hours of work is like,
Yeah,
I'm maxed out. I don't have any more time or energy or compassion to give at this point. But yeah, we're all at different stages in the journey. And it's not to say that, it's linear either, right? Like at certain times in your life, you have a lot of energy and time perhaps to like
yeah,
really focus on community and be community initiative and or focused and directed. And maybe at other times you have less of that and you have to like kind of turn inward and focus on yourself. But I definitely understand the frustration when your heart is so open and like directed towards helping others in community and creating social change, that it's hard to understand how other people, don't have that same vision for their
yeah.
practice.
I
Yeah.
agree.
I, there's another thing I want to ask you about. I don't mean to give you a hard time. I'm just kind of chewing on it. 'Cause sometimes I like to go to bed at night watching like the greatest knockouts in boxing history. Like I'll just sit up and I'll watch Deontay Wilder just beat the shit out of somebody and really enjoy that. And I understand that there's a kind of contradiction there for a professional yogi to indulge in the enjoyment of physical violence, but it's kind of part of me at this point. And so, but I just to put that out there, and then I want to also mention
Are you trying to reconcile boxing and yoga?
sure. That's why I'm kind of
Okay.
introducing the concept, And I did a partnership with a boxing teacher at a Title I school in Milwaukee, and I would come in and we would teach He had a group of young men that he was training and nurturing and trying to create. It was like the Black Latino Young Men's Association at that school, and he was just trying to get them to learn how to tie ties, but also be regulated. And one of the things that we could really agree on, he and I, and that we really saw eye to eye on, was the breath. And he said, "There's no better tool for a boxer than mastering his breath or her breath, because
Mm,
that's going to keep you regulated, so you
yeah,
don't fight angry and you don't fight with violence, but you fight as a tactician, as a chess master." And like Floyd Mayweather, for example, is not like a hard hitter. He's a genius
yeah.
at tactics and defense and not getting hit, and then getting points. I wonder if you could does that at all resonate with you, that kind of where that violence kind of sits? I mean, at one point you need an entry for kids who are incarcerated. How are you going to get them interested in self-regulation? Well, their boxing is a way to do that, because that's going to appeal.
Yeah, so I think so we're talking about like how we sort of can teach breath work through sort of the martial arts or the benefit of that.
Hmm.
Yeah. So firstly, we can't teach boxing in prisons. Just they don't allow that over here. You're not
Yeah.
allowed to
Okay.
teach any sort of any like martial arts or anything like that.
Right.
Um, yeah, I think like what worked really well when we sort of did mix boxing and yoga together was we would focus right at the start of a session. We get the young people to lie down and we just do like a grounding practice, just get them to concentrate on breathing, and then they would go to the we do like some sort of like gentle stretches lying on the floor, and then we'd get them to get up and get on the bags, and we'd do like a Tabata style thing, you know, the 20 seconds on, 10 seconds off the bag, and then come back and see how they felt, and the difference that they would feel, and they could recognize how when they felt angry in other situations, so when they're in school, how their breathing can change. So then we got them to try and focus on maybe using like simple techniques like, you know, the square breathing and things like that for when they are in those situations where maybe there's a conflict or they're feeling anxious, how they can sort of use that breath work to help calm themselves down and get them back into sort of a more calmer state. So I suppose essentially getting them to, you know, calm down their nervous system through the breath work. And it's what, so
Could you describe that square technique for our listeners?
So it's breathing in for 4 seconds, hold for 4 seconds, exhale for 4 seconds, and then hold for 4 seconds again, breath out.
Oh, that's just pure pranayama. Yeah.
Yeah.
I call it the Samavritti Pranayama.
Nice. Yeah. Same wave.
Same
Pranayama.
movement.
And we've used Eddie's app, actually, the breathing app, which is really good. So like we've used that in sessions. I got my wife to use that actually when she was having the baby.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So we definitely really try to link a lot of like breath work into our sessions. And you know, I even know from my own experience, like in jiu-jitsu, when someone's got me in like a quite uncomfortable position, if I can control my breathing, I'm much calmer, and I can start to think, right, what do I need to do to get out of this? If I didn't have that skill that I've learned from yoga, and when I roll with people actually that don't know that, you know, they'll be in that position and they'll be breathing really fast and quick, and they won't quite know what to do, and it gives you that control. I can even like think about, you know, when a footballer steps up to take a penalty, you know, they always, if you watch it, they're breathing, they take a big breath out, go up, hit the ball. So
I talk about Kevin Durant doing a free throw. Like the first thing he does is takes deep breath every time.
So we're definitely trying to link that into our sessions, you know, and the work that I do in prisons, you know, those young people are constantly living in fight or flight mode, you know, their nervous system all over the place. So soon as they get into the sessions, they're lying down on the mats and we're just breathing. And then we get up and we do some, you know, some like physical yoga practice. And then at the end again, lying down, breathing. And they love the breathing. It was funny, like the first time I went into prison, I thought, because I'm not allowed to teach them boxing or anything like that, I thought, how am I going to sell yoga to this group of young people? I had like 15 young lads. You know, like I think like 2 of them had done yoga before, like at primary school, and they're all like 16, 17 now. So I thought, oh, I'm going to have to like mix in a bit of fitness at first just to get them, you know, get them sort of settled and hopefully sort of break, you know, a bit of a barrier with it. And straight away they were like, oh, can we do some of that breathing and meditation stuff? And I was like, yes, that's exactly what I want you to do.
That's so good.
And it's you know, I think it's like the part that they enjoy the most, to be honest. Like,
it just feels better.
Yeah, exactly. And it's the stuff that's really good for them, but it's just helping them to be able to do it in a way where they don't feel shame and embarrassed about doing it. So, you know, and that's where that trauma sort of informed approach goes, where we have to really like think about when I'm teaching them, where they're positioned, you know, what position they're in. Like, you know, they don't necessarily all want to lie down in Shavasana. Some of them might sit against the wall. Some of them might want to not want to shut their eyes. So they might just put their hands over their heads.
they may not want to sit with their backs to the door.
Yeah,
Something
exactly.
like
So
that.
it's yeah.
We could never. Well, we would make sure never to ever do downward dog, because that's such a sexually submissive position. So we had to be really. We were always really careful about
I
that
never
one.
do downward dog with any of them in there. Yeah, like
Yeah.
because I did some trauma informed training through prison yoga project through
Mm-hmm.
is it James Fox's organization? Yeah. Um, and within that training, it was brilliant. It just gave, obviously they've been teaching yoga in prisons for like 20, 30 years. And it just gave all that information around, like things like, the language and the positions. And yeah,
Right.
so we just tend to be like, go into high plank rather than downward
Right.
dog.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I have to sort of change the language a little bit. And yeah, really,
Do you ever
really sort
do
of think of
any
the postures.
shaking of the limbs?
No, I don't actually. Yeah, why did you say that?
We had someone who did the yoga. What's Spiros and Erica, the her organization. Never mind.
I forget.
They were teaching elementary school girls who were incarcerated, like 12 and 13, 14-year-olds is what I mean.
Yeah.
Secondary school girls incarcerated. And they had looked at the work of Robert Sapolsky, who had talked about why zebras don't get ulcers, even though
They're
well,
stressed out all the time.
how long I'll do it with you. How long do you think zebras live?
I don't know, 20 years?
That's right. Yeah, 20, 30 years. And every day someone's trying to kill them. And yet they don't get ulcers. They don't get anxiety, immunodeficient diseases. And the reason they don't is that every time that they get attacked, they do this thing. It's a Taylor Swift song. Do you know the song?
I don't know. Go on.
Shake It Off.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So every time they get attacked and someone tries to eat them, they go off and they shake their limbs and they shake it off, and it rebalances their nervous system.
The doggies do it too.
The doggies do it too, yeah. And what we started discovering is that when we were doing it with our kids, and then we started doing it with the teachers, is that we would just do a hand shaking exercise for, you can actually hear that on the radio, for like 15 seconds to 30 seconds. And it's profound. Like, holy fuck, do I feel relaxed
Really?
after shaking my hands. Just shaking my hands 10 seconds is like, you can feel how you started from before to after. It's like having a good shake can really shake the fucking jitters out of you,
Yeah.
which is
I,
great when you're
I'll
being
have to try
attacked
it.
all the time in prison.
Yeah.
You know,
Shake it off.
shake it off.
All right. I'll give that one a go.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
Do the hokey pokey and turn yourself around.
That's what it's all about. I saw some really cool photos that you did with your kids. Like, you're doing yoga with your kids now.
Oh,
Will they do it?
Lola and Callie, yeah. Yeah, they love it. They absolutely love it. So whenever I'm doing it, they sort of get involved. And yeah, no, it's funny. They've both got their own little mat now that they sort of pull out and join me.
That's awesome.
And there's a really great sort of YouTube class called Cosmic Kids or something like that.
Yeah, I know that when they tell the stories and they do all the different postures. Yeah, I love that lady. She's awesome.
Yeah, so they do that, and yeah, no, it's nice. And yeah, like I said, once I got over that sort of period of being a bit selfish with my practice, and when the girls come and join me now, I just love it. It's great. It's good. It's yeah, no, they love it.
It's such a good skill for kids to develop at a young age. Even my son, who has like zero interest in practicing yoga, but because he's around it his whole life and like watches other people do it and watches us do it. And
that was a hilarious
his dad,
story.
when he's stressed out, he'll sit in lotus and like breathe.
That's so good. How old is he?
Or he like loves doing back bends.
But like,
He'll do back bends
tell
every
that
once in a
story
while.
about the dentist. That was so
I think
rad.
we've told it before, but he had to go get a couple teeth pulled, because they were
Baby teeth.
baby teeth, and they were like too impacted, kind of. They weren't like coming out properly.
So he's gonna get shots.
Yeah, and he hates needles. He hates shots or anything.
Totally freaked out.
So I had to park the car, and I told him to run into the dentist and like check in. He's 11, and so he went into the dentist, and I came in like maybe a minute later, 2 minutes later maximum, and I like look and
Where's my kid?
I'm like, did a boy come in here to check in? And she's like, yeah, he's just over there, and he's just sitting in lotus breathing. I'm like, oh yeah, that one belongs to me.
That's amazing.
Yeah, but he does it frequently, actually, if he's needs like a little refresher.
Yeah,
How
Lola
did you
started
meet your?
doing that actually. She sort of sits down, crosses her leg, and closes her eyes. It's great.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
takes like some deep breaths. He's just like,
Yeah.
really focusing on his breathing.
That's the
Beautiful.
one first lesson we always did was this grounding breath, and we just have them just put a hand on your heart and another hand on your belly and just feel your breath.
Mm.
And the kids really liked it because it was like giving yourself a hug, and it's immediately very reassuring. And just like listen to your breath, take some breaths into your hands, and just it was really sweet to walk into a classroom and see a kid sitting there already doing it.
Yeah, that's great.
Like, oh,
yeah.
how did you and your wife meet? Does she do this work? Is she a boxer?
A boxer.
She's not a boxer, no. So we met quite a long time ago. It would have been about 12 or 13 years ago. I met her in Brick Lane in London, when we were out for drinks, and we exchanged numbers, and then nothing really happened. Like, we just stayed friends. Like, she was working as an air hostess at the time, and I sort of hadn't been in London too long, so I'd sort of moved home for a year and then came back up. And anyway, it didn't work out at the time. We just stayed friends. Like, we lived quite far away from each other. And then it must have been about 3 years later, I'd broken up with my girlfriend at the time, and I noticed on Morgan's Instagram that her boyfriend no longer featured. So so I sent her a message, and and then we went out for some drinks, and then the first night I got so drunk she had to take me home and put me to bed.
Oh shit.
Yeah. And then the second time we met, that happened again.
That's brutal.
And then that was it.
Fell in love.
She was like, oh, I really like putting this guy to bed.
Yeah.
This one's for me. Yeah.
So we've been together for 9 years now, and married for 6 or I think 6 or 7.
Is she still a airline hostess?
No, that was over a long time ago. No, she does sort of do similar work. She works within children's social care, but she does like business support for them.
Cool.
And then obviously supports me massively with the business and obviously, like, with our family and everything.
You said Brick Lane. Is she? Is her family from the subcontinent, as they say, from Bangladesh or?
No, they're not. No, we're just out for drinks. No, her Morgan's Morgan's dad is from Barbados. So
Barbados. Okay. So I was wondering about the yoga connection. I wonder if this comes together. Like her uncle is a.
My great granddad was Indian though. On my dad's side, yeah. So my great granddad was from northern India, and my great gran was Austrian Jewish, and she sort of came to London during the war, and he had moved to London. He was like a professional dancer,
Mhm.
Wow.
Yeah, and they met in London, like, and this was like obviously back when interracial couples weren't too common, and she was like
Yeah.
Austrian Jewish and he was Indian Pakistani, so it's like it would be Pakistan now, but and
Yeah.
he
Yeah,
was from
wow.
Muslim background, but yeah, so
That's incredible.
That's
Wow.
fantastic. Yeah.
yeah, and then yeah, Morgan,
It came to you through like
Generations.
generations, DNA, subtle
exactly,
imprints. Yeah. That's amazing.
yeah, no, it
Do
is,
you
and
think that was also why your father sort of was drawn to, or your grandfather?
no, because it wasn't his side of the family, it's
Okay, the other
my
side of
nan's
the
side of the
family. You have
family.
it from
Yeah.
both sides.
No, so it was my granddad. So it was my grandma who was married to my granddad. Yeah, so it's
Wow.
her side of the
Okay.
family.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Fun.
That's
but,
incredible.
yeah, and then
Mm.
So Morgan's dad's from Barbados and mum is from Sunderland. If you know where Sunderland
Sunderland.
is,
Yeah.
not quite Barbados.
No, not quite.
No, uh, yeah.
Wow.
So no, there was no link there. But yeah, Morgan's not really into yoga.
She thinks it's for twats.
Yeah.
Well, it does do wonders for your mula bandha. I've just really enjoyed our conversation, and I'd love to hear what your needs are and what your vision is for the organization going forward, and
Yeah, we have
how
lots of London listeners, UK listeners.
yeah, wow,
Yeah.
how could we
How
help
can
and
people support
participate?
you?
Yeah.
So, well, one way you can support us at the moment is we are going to be on the 27th of September this year. We are going to
Okay.
be walking up. There's a team of us from Urban Yogis are going to be hiking the three biggest mountains in the UK, which won't be very big to you Canadians.
Huh.
It'll be more like a small hill.
Yeah, a hill.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so it's called the Three Peaks Challenge. So we're doing the Three Peaks in 24 hours. And just to make it a bit more exciting, we're going to do 300 yoga postures on the Three Peaks. So we're going to do 100 on each.
Good.
So yeah, so we're trying to raise money to run programs all over the UK, which will be aimed at supporting young people. And the programs will involve yoga and empowerment and mental health workshops, but the focus of it is to support and build awareness to around sort of domestic violence and mental health issues. I think there was a massive increase in domestic violence incidents during COVID.
Right.
I mean, it's already like, the statistics are terrible anyway, but it got
Yeah.
worse during that period of time.
Same in the
So
States.
yeah, so we want to really work with young females and boys, well, all genders, sorry, to support and educate around, healthy relationships and empowering people and delivering sort of workshops around mental health and things like that. So yeah, so the link is on my Instagram, Ben Eckett Yoga. It's on the Urban Yogis Instagram. It's a Just Giving page, so maybe if you guys can share that, that would be amazing. But yeah, we're trying to raise
Absolutely.
£10,000.
For
Yeah.
sure. Yeah.
And the future, I suppose, there's lots we want to do. Obviously, this year, we really want to launch our teacher training qualification.
Mhm.
We want to expand our programs, what we're doing in prisons and within schools and communities. But yeah, the idea with Gloves Not Guns and sort of Urban Yogis is to sort of turn them into sort of huge national initiatives that are delivering sort of the services and support to communities all over the UK and maybe one day internationally,
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah. So like right now you're mostly working like in the London area.
Yeah, so with Gloves Not Guns, it's all London based. With Urban Yogis, it's London, and then we're delivering down in southwest England, so Devon and Dorset, which is good.
Okay, great.
Fantastic.
Yeah, and just to say as well, like, everything that we do is only made possible by just the amazing staff team that we've got. So just a shout out to all the staff that will be listening, because yeah, it's like it's not, this isn't just because of me and Adam, it's because of like everybody that's involved in the projects, and everybody believes in what we're doing, everybody's passionate, and you know, we've all got the same vision, and you know, everyone's doing it for the right purpose.
Yeah, it takes such a huge amount of commitment and teamwork to make something like this happen, let alone two nonprofit organizations to make two of them successful
Yeah,
together. You know, it's incredible the work that you guys are doing, and I know it takes not just the two of you, but a whole army of people behind you.
That's right.
Helping and making it possible. So yeah, big shout out to all of the people involved in your organizations.
thanks. And if you guys are ever over, you're obviously welcome to come down to Gloves Not Guns and Urban Yogis and teach and get involved.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Well,
Thank
if
you.
we're ever in the area, we're definitely going to look you up. But I'm sure there's lots of yoga practitioners and teachers listening. So I hope they look you up right now, too, because we have many UK listeners.
It's true. And
Yeah.
I'll introduce you to, when we get offline, I'll introduce you to Erica McGill and her.
Yeah, she's there right now, actually.
She's in, she's in
London, I
London
think,
right now.
or Cambridge or somewhere.
She's at London, I think. Yeah, London School. And she has a really wonderful curriculum for those young girls who are incarcerated. So I think she can share some of those things with you.
Yeah, that'd be amazing. Is she living here, or is she just over
Yes,
teaching?
she's living there, just
She's
finishing
an
a
American.
school.
She's doing a master's degree there, I believe.
Yeah.
I think.
The London School of Oriental Studies?
I'm not
Is that
sure.
a thing?
I don't know.
Probably.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, and just to your listeners as well, if there are any people that are interested in getting involved in the project, and yeah, just reach out to us.
Yeah.
Will do.
Yeah, beautiful. And yeah, and your teacher training sounds like a really amazing program for people who are interested in this kind of work also, and even teachers of yoga who want to, you know, understand more how to teach in a trauma informed way and in environments where people might, you know, come from a trauma background. So I can't wait for you to have that as one of your offerings too. It sounds amazing.
Cool. Thank you both for having me.
Yeah,
Thank
well,
you,
thank
Ben.
you so much, Ben.
Really pleasure to meet you.